Welcome back. Venice residents can look forward to a new police station and new roads that they'll be paying for. 64% of voters approved the road bond for the next 20 years. Homeowners will pay $37 per $100,000 of home value annually. As for the public safety bond, which got 53% support, you'll pay $28 per $100,000 of home value for the next 30 years. This comes just after the City Council approved a separate tax increase on property owners. And joining us for more on how this money will be used is John Hollick, the mayor of Venice, and ABC 7 South County reporter Christopher Brantley. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us. And Mayor, that's a really nice tie you're wearing tonight.
Thank you, Alan. It's
with
festive.
The season.
So festive.
You know, my first question to you is, how did this become necessary? How could all these things have been so severely underfunded over the, I don't know, years or decades that the police station was in such dire straits and the roads are in the conditions that they are today?
Well, it's probably actually since the inception of the city. We have never had a budget that has planned ahead for capital items. It's always been, what do you need, and now let's see where we can get the money.
For decades?
For decades, since the inception of the city. And that, it would be like a person moving into a condominium association and not paying any monthly fee, and then all of a sudden the condominium needs a roof. Where do you get the money? We had no money set aside for repairs of buildings.
You know, Christopher, a lot of the people who live in Venice, like the rest of the Suncoast, are people who have just moved here in their retirement, don't go back decades, and so often these days you hear people say, stop spending money. We don't want to hear about government spending. We don't want to hear about tax increases or bonds or anything like that. Make do with what you have. What kind of sense did you get in Venice leading up to this vote?
Anybody who doesn't want to spend money on a road project should drive down Venice Avenue downtown, because not only is the road very bumpy and you're faced with people on either side of you, they're very hard to see when pedestrians are coming through. I think a lot of the people who come down here and drive on the roads in Venice quickly realize the roads need to be redone. At some point, we're going to have to spend money on it, is at least what I've heard from folks. And folks overwhelmingly were happy to spend money this time around.
So in many ways, Mayor, this is the chickens coming home to roost.
Well, it's something that our council was working on 6 years ago when I originally got elected. We really dug into the budget process and made many, many changes over the last 6 years. But it wasn't until about 2 years ago that we really discovered that our capital improvement items were not being funded. We were relying on the 1-cent sales tax to fund them, or we were just relying on perhaps an increase in revenue due to increased appreciation of property values. But there was no plan in place. Now we have a plan in place.
Well, that's like the $34 million question. I mean, why wasn't this kind of pre-planning that many communities do?
You know, I hate to place blame. I can turn around and tell you what we've done to correct it. The blame is always going to fall on the finance director. The finance director gives us direction, gives us problems that need to be solved, gives us solutions. We had none of those for the last several years, actually for the last several decades. So it's just correcting problems of the past.
And Christopher, we have less than a minute, but could you address that? Has that been an ongoing problem?
Yeah, absolutely. And since I've been in Venice, and please correct me if I'm wrong, since I've been in Venice, I think we've gone for, this is now the third finance director in the last about year and 9 months. I've been covering Venice every day.
We replaced the original finance director, the one that didn't give us any direction. We didn't get a good fit on the second one, who was replaced relatively quickly. And now we have a young lady that's doing just an outstanding job and is giving us the information that we need to move forward.
The last two finance directors, though, is that a direct reflection of the fact that none of these capital improvements were looked ahead? Could be an example at least?
That could be a very big portion of it.
We are just getting started here, but we have to take a break on this topic. But we'll return. We'll take a look at our full forecast, so stay with us. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, we are discussing two bonds approved by Venice voters this November. Millions of dollars will now be infused into public works and public safety. And joining us for more on the topic is Venice's Mayor John Hollick and ABC 7 South County reporter Christopher Brantley. Mayor, I have lots of questions. Of the total of $34 million that will be coming in, how precisely has it been budgeted? I know there's going to be a new police station. I know there are going to be new roads. Is all the money spoken for at this stage?
Well, at this stage, no. The two bonds are up to $18 million for roads and up to $16 million for the public safety building. So as we get the bids in for the building, as we purchase the land, we'll have a better picture as to exactly how much we need. It might be less than $16 million. On the roads, chances are we're going to use all $18 million. We have an additional $1.4 million coming in this year from lobbying efforts that I made last year in the state of Florida. We were successful in obtaining a $1.4 million grant to improve ADA accessibility on our roads. I'm planning on going back in February and making a case again for another $1.4 million. So we may end up spending more than the $18 million on the roads.
The reason why I ask is our lead story tonight was that despite this, you have other buildings that are falling apart. The Public Works building, the Venice Museum and Archives that is so weak that the materials stored there have to be moved out. Are there any plans to replace these buildings?
Well, Alan, just the last council meeting, I did give a proposal to our council for at least thought to get them started in thinking, how are we going to set up our succession of buildings for replacement? And the first, of course, is the police station. When that gets replaced, that'll open up the old police station for Public Works. When Public Works moves to the old police station, we'll now have a big section of land in what's called our seaboard area that can be put up for sale. We won't need it any longer. We can take the money from that, along with some money that we've set aside, hopefully, from the 1-cent sales tax, and replace fire station number 1.
But if the old police station had a leaky roof and was not up to snuff for the police department, how could it be sufficient for Public Works?
Well, we had money set aside to replace the roof. The problem was, until the voters decided whether or not we would have a new police station, it would have been a waste of money to replace the roof if we would have had to put a second story on the old building. So we repaired the existing roof. Now that we know that the building's going to stay in place, we can go ahead and repair that. The cost to change over the old police station to a new Public Works building is insignificant compared to trying to upgrade the old police station to make it a modern police station for our first responders.
So, Christopher, taxpayers, voters, they approve these bonds. They know what they're for, but do you get a sense that Venice residents are prepared for the additional funding that is going to have to be made to all these other buildings that need repairs and things that need to be done?
I think there might be a little bit of a shock, a little bit of maybe buyer's remorse, perhaps this time next year when they realize they've paid all of this money. But at the same time, as I said before, when you drive down Venice roadways, pretty much any road you drive down, you go, this road needs to be redone. I was very, very, very surprised that voters approved the public safety bond.
Why?
Because I imagined we all drive on roads, so you do want to have good roads, I was very surprised. I almost was certain that voters were going to say no to the public safety bond because most people don't go to the police station and see, as I did.
It was not overwhelming. It was 53%.
Well, that's true. I mean, it was very close on the line, but I thought for sure it would be overwhelming no. Let's wait a few years for that, because I thought people would say more along the lines of just fix it up, it'll be fine.
Mayor, are you concerned because the budget estimates we're getting from the state right now is that the state budget is going to be tighter this year than it was last year, and if you are getting any kind of additional funding from the state, these are not things that you can count on?
Well, and the road bond doesn't count on the state money. That state money is extra. It will put additional improvements into the roadways and into the ADA accessibility that we did not budget, that is not mandated in our budget, in our borrowing, but it should be done for accessibility for those that have some handicap.
The next question is an obvious one. We talked about there was a lack of planning here. What steps are you and your colleagues doing to make sure that you start planning years down the road in terms of what the city is going to need?
Alan, that's an excellent question. And what I will be doing over the next several months is I will release my plan for infrastructure replacement and repair in the city of Venice. And I think that the way I'm looking at it right now, if council goes along with it, we should be able to replace all the buildings that we need to replace over the next 10-year period without any additional tax increases, just by some smart planning and by selling some of the assets that the city will no longer need because of relocation.
Christopher, is there any concern in the city because when you take out these bonds, as you reported in your story, it increases the tax bill for residents, and that's going to affect not only current homeowners but people moving into the town? Is there any concern in the real estate committee, the development community?
I've spoken to a couple of real estate that, interesting that you would mention that. Nobody really seemed to have a whole lot of concern because thousands of new homes are being built by several different major developments in the city of Venice. Venice is still an amazing place to come to and to retire to or to move to at any age, really. I really don't think it'll drive people back, especially all of these new homes.
But that brings up another issue, and many communities have struggled in Florida with this in terms of what part of infrastructure do developers pay for, and whether or not that's passed along to homeowners, because many communities have taken over the responsibility of infrastructure because developers lobby them. What is the situation in Venice?
Well, we do have several impact fees. We do have road impact fees, library impact fees, park impact fees. Every new house that's built has an impact fee, but that's for additional roads, additional parks, additional libraries. It has to increase capacity in order to use that impact fee. City of Venice has a unique contractual obligation that goes along with that. We have an extraordinary mitigation fee, and that's a contractual. The land parcels that annexed into the City of Venice signed a contract that said they would pay additional fees to the City of Venice for services that were needed.
All right, we have to take a quick break, but when we return, we'll have final thoughts from our guests, plus find out what some of our viewers are saying about last night's topic, polling. Welcome back. Venice voters approved $34 million worth of bonds. Now it's time to work out how to spend the money. Our guests join us right now for final thoughts on the matter. Christopher, I'll start with you because I remember a couple of months ago when the police had to move the stuff out of the evidence room because the rain was getting in. Boy, that must have made a real impact on voters in Venice.
I would imagine so, because before that, most people probably didn't know that there was any sort of issue with the 26-year-old building aging until they saw it with their own eyes that it was leaking on evidence.
So, Mary, you have the money now for a new police station and for to fix those roads down there. But how can you assure voters that the city is going to start putting into place systems to look down the road, and how long down the road, to make sure that this doesn't happen again?
Well, Alan, we have a very engaged citizenry. We have dedicated constituents, very intelligent voters. We laid everything out in front of them. And out of all the bond issues, both bond issues, out of all the votes, there was only one precinct that did not pass the public safety bond. All the other precincts passed the road bond and the public safety bond. They knew all about this. We kept everything in front of them. I think they're going to be very happy with what they see, and we will keep them apprised as we go and how we're going to pay for the other buildings as they come up.
And with the new finance director and those to come, will there be a requirement for them to plan in terms of the needs down the road?
I think the people will continue to hold our feet to the fire. They will make sure that we are held accountable for what's happening, and not only this council, but the councils of the future.
All right, we'll leave it there. Thank you. But before we go, we want to share with you what some of you are saying about last night's topic, polling. Almost without exception, the last round of presidential polls gave Hillary Clinton a 1 to 7% point lead over Donald Trump, yet he won the Electoral College and the presidency. Did it shake your faith in the accuracy of polls? Mike Findley writes, so many variables with polls, who is being polled by who, etc. They can be made to reflect what the pollsters desire. Don't put much stock in them. Susan Yoder writes, many Americans didn't answer the pollsters' calls, of which I was one. And Candy Smith writes, the media thought they could manipulate everyone into thinking she was ahead, so they would either not vote Trump or just vote for her. They were wrong. The media has been lying all along. No, Candy, sorry. If this does not confirm your preconceived notion, but the pollsters say their modeling was off, they assume Republicans and Democrats would vote at 2012 levels. This time more Republicans and fewer Democrats came out to vote. A polling error, not a conspiracy. If you'd like to join the conversation about tonight's topic, just visit our Facebook page at facebook.com/news@7. And FYI, want to watch past Roundtable discussions? They're available on Apple TV, Amazon Fire, and Roku. Thank you to our guests for being here tonight, Mayor John Hollick of Venice and ABC7 reporter Christopher Brantley.